I've got 4 words for you. Sam Leavitt is back. Happy Wednesday and welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. I am Anthony Totri. It's just me today. It's just me and my good Captain Redbeard behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen, guys. We are sailing the 7 seas of the Big 12, and guess what? Stillwater is up next. Do us a solid, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, buckle up, because for the next 57 minutes and change, we are talking all things Arizona State foosball. Sharon in the chat, I see your Oklahoma State quarterback, and raise you a returning ASU quarterback. Will in the chat, are you bragging about Alan Bowman, the same Alan Bowman that many Oak State fans would trade for a pack of cigs? Yikes. Look, we are going to get into that Oklahoma State offense going up against that Arizona State defense at some point during the show. We're also going to take a look at some of the other Big 12 matchups going on around the conference and maybe what that means for Arizona State. But first and foremost, we are definitely starting with the news of the day, and that is, of course, that Sam Leavitt, your QB1, is back in action for Arizona State. Kenny Dillingham announcing after practice today that Sam Leavitt would return. No Jeff Sims in the starting lineup. QB1 is back. And like Eric and I discussed on yesterday's show, the importance of having Sam Leavitt back in action for the Arizona State offense can't be oversold. Because right now, Arizona State is in a must-win situation. I know that this team is 5-2. I know that Oklahoma State has had a down year. But when I say a must-win situation, I mean that your Arizona State Sun Devils have already, to this point in the year, exceeded expectations. However, when you go and raise the bar, you don't want to just stay there 7 games in. You want to raise it even higher. So yes, bowl eligibility is something that is on the line for Arizona State. You need to get that monkey off of your back, moving on with the rest of your season. But if you're the Arizona State Sun Devils, you're looking far further than just bowl eligibility. You are still in the race for a Big 12 title game, which means you have to go win this weekend. Connor in their chat, how many points is ASU favored to win this weekend? Do you think Sam Leavitt is able to keep the same consistency after missing some time? Arizona State is favored. I believe they opened as a 2.5-point favorite against Oklahoma State. So something to keep in mind. You get 3 points for the books for being at home. So if this was an ASU home game, it feels like Arizona State would be favored by nearly a touchdown. Take that for what you will. The Sun Devils have not played well on the road all season long, not just in conference, but on the road in non-con as well, going up against Texas State. Sun Devils were staring down the barrel of a 21-7 game, found a way to come back. Wasn't the same story against Texas Tech and, of course, Cincinnati. So this is, again, a Mike Gundy-led team that you can't take lightly, despite what their record says, despite the fact that they have lost 5 straight and are 0-5 in Big 12 play. You have to take this team as serious as you've taken every other Big 12 team, because if you don't, Ollie Gordon and Brennan, Presley and Deshaun Stribling will pick you apart. We'll get to those guys a little bit later on in the show. Will in the chat. So what you're saying is that there's calm seas ahead this weekend. I would say that there is much calmer seas knowing that Sam Leavitt is aboard the ship. I will say that because I had a discussion with Mike Luke this morning. It'll be on Behind Enemy Lines. You can catch that early Saturday morning or even Thursday. Still figuring out when that episode is going to go out and get posted. But keep in mind that Jeff Sims did not lose Arizona State the game against Cincinnati. Anybody that says that is wrong. I think, in all honesty, I think there were some coaching decisions offensively, defensively, that didn't make a ton of sense to the outside world. But understanding that this team wants to be aggressive, they felt like they had the down and distance a couple times where they wanted to go. Didn't turn out in Arizona State's favor. And overall, this team emotionally has gotten themselves in a little bit of a swing. They struggle with emotions on the road, which is something that you can't afford to do. Now, I said on yesterday's show that Sam Leavitt's potential return, now confirmed official, would be massive for this team. Now, there was a question earlier in the chat. Do you think Sam Leavitt maybe is a little bit rusty? Can he keep up the consistency that we've seen from Sam Leavitt at the start of the season? Sam Leavitt is a redshirt freshman quarterback. Sam Leavitt has been cleared to play medically for a couple weeks now. Kenny Dillingham and the rest of the coaching staff opted to keep Sam Leavitt off the field against Cincinnati, right? Protecting him from himself. Sam Leavitt, a very aggressive, passionate football player, wants to be out there with his guys. He sat on the sideline and watched Arizona State lose for just the second time this season against a Cincinnati team that last weekend would ultimately lose to Colorado. That hurt Arizona State's chances of being in the AP Top 25. Sun Devils felt like they were a win away from being a top 25 team in the nation. QB1 has to sit with that loss. Let it marinate. Not just for the weekend, but for an entire bye week. Sam Leavitt has to sit there. Soak up the L. He wasn't out there. He was cleared. And again, not his fault that he didn't play. Not saying it was anyone's fault that he didn't play. Maybe in the long term, it's good that he didn't play for your Arizona State Sun Devils. Let him get healthy. Let him mentally soak that in. Because being a starting quarterback at the Division I level is as much mental as it is physical. Can you handle those mental waves throughout a year? Sam Leavitt hasn't necessarily been thrown any emotional waves up until the injury, right? Goes down, gets back in the game, wins it for the Sun Devils, cleared, but then has to sit out. So Sam Leavitt returning on the road against Oklahoma State is a statement game. It's a statement game for Sam Leavitt. It's a statement game for your Arizona State Sun Devils. Oklahoma State's defense, like we mentioned on Tuesday's program, has the second worst rush defense in the country. There are 120 plus Division I football programs. There is only one worse at stopping the run than Oklahoma State. They are dead last, 16 of 16 in rush defense in the Big 12. Now, you're probably sitting there wondering why I'm talking about this when I'm talking about Sam Leavitt. Well, yes, Cam Scadaboo is going to do what Cam Scadaboo does. But Sam Leavitt, his identity as a quarterback to this point in the season has been dual threat. I'm going to make some passes, some tight windows. I'm going to go through my progressions. If it's not there, I'm taking off. Got him hurt. Got him hurt in that Utah game. So why is this a statement game? Why do I say all this to say that Sam Leavitt and the Sun Devils have a statement game? Because you're not just a redshirt freshman quarterback anymore. Last year, you were a backup quarterback at Michigan State. When you got in, it was in. You have been the starting quarterback for the Arizona State Sun Devils for 6 games. People love what they see. You've got one loss under your belt with Sam Leavitt at the helm. It's time to get everybody back on board. People were begging to see you against Cincinnati. After that loss, people were saying if Sam was in, we would have won that ball game. At the very least, we would have had a better chance to win that ball game. Prove them right. Oklahoma State's defense is buns, Cinnabons. They're awful. They're horrible. I don't care the personnel that they have out there. I don't care that it's their homecoming. I don't care that they're at home. I don't care that Arizona State hasn't played in a week. What I care about is the redshirt freshman quarterback continuing his development. The mental wave is here. Can you go into Stillwater, a place that Arizona State hasn't won in their last matchup, a team in Oklahoma State that Arizona State hasn't beat the last 2 times they've played? Can you go in there after not playing in a game for 2 weeks and prove your fan base right? Can you run the football? And I'm talking about Sam. Can you run the football, and did you learn from your mistakes? Did you learn from that hit? Slide. I know I say it jokingly from time to time. Slide. The 1 to 2 yards on any given play is not worth your availability any given week. Slide, know when to call it. And through the air. The progression that you've made with the deep ball since week 1, is it still there? Can you hit Jordan Tyson down the field 40 yards and connect and make Oklahoma State pay? Or do you overshoot him? The development needs to continue, not just for Sam Leavitt, but for the Arizona State offense as a whole. If that happens, your Arizona State Sun Devils will be bowling. They will be 6-2. But it's going to be on Sam Leavitt. The fan base is excited to get him back. The team all week long, from what I've heard, was telling him last week, you're not going to be ready, Sam. You're not going to be ready, Sam. You're not going to be ready, right? Trying to mentally get him to where he needed to be. Here he is. Wednesday, October 30th. Several days to go. Your QB1 again. Can you take advantage of the moment? Connor in the chat, exactly. Prove the critics that ASU is meant to win. Are you? Are you meant to win? Are you meant to go into Stillwater, a hostile place in the Big 12, Cowboys homecoming, and are you able to silence them, get that 6th win, and get ready to do it again at home against UCF? Because if you can't, then what? Then the fan base starts to have some retractions, some concerns, right? Then at that point, you will have lost 2 of your last 2 games. Sam Leavitt has only lost 1 to this point in the season. You got to find a way to get it done. Otherwise, I'm not saying it will happen, but I'm saying it could happen. Things start to spiral. We've seen it at Arizona State before in years past. We've seen it across college football. Just because you hit the 5-win mark does not mean that that 6th win will eventually get there. They start to spiral from time to time. That's all I'm saying. Short bus in the chat. Totri eats green eggs and ham. Sam, I am. Sam he is, and Sam I am. Guys, we are going to continue our conversation about Arizona State football. We're going to take a look at the other side of the field, that Arizona State defense going up against that Oklahoma State offense. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And make sure you stay along for the ride, because we're getting into all that on the other side of this break. Do you like winning? If you're an Arizona State fan, you've won a lot this year. If you're an Arizona Wildcat fan, you've won a little less. But everybody can be a winner when you go to Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Something that you always have to keep in mind with our friends over at Gila is that nobody does it better. You can visit any of their 4 locations, Wild Horse Pass, Vicuiva, Santan Mountain, and experience the best that the Valley has to offer. They've got a ton of different options when it comes to food, when it comes to just hanging out, enjoying the vibes. But look, I started with the fact that Arizona State, they've been some winners. Arizona, you've been some losers. Well, it's time for everybody to win. Go all in with over 4,500 slots and live table games, or catch all the action at any of their sports books. Also, make sure you keep an eye out, because we're hosting events all year, including cards and Suns watch parties and more. So stay tuned for info on how you guys can come hang with us. Earn entry for Ferrari Fortunes every Friday at 7 p.m. Winners are drawn for cash prizes and free bonus play. The grand finale will take place on November 1st at Wild Horse Pass, where one lucky winner is going to win a Ferrari 488 GTB. You do you at Gila River Resorts Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. And when you're winning money, you're going to need a place that you trust to put it. We're talking Desert Financial. They're the official retail banking partner of Arizona State University. The Desert Financial team is not any ordinary team. They're financial experts who are committed to their members in the community, offering financial solutions tailored to helping real people achieve their financial goals and dreams. Now is the time to show your ASU team spirit. Open a free checking account online and get $200 plus your choice of 3 Arizona State University Visa debit cards. Go to desertfinancial.com/ASU to get started. Will in the chat, offensive line and linebackers will determine how this game goes. If they both play up to their expectations, ASU wins this by 2 scores. Guys, let me know in the chat what position group you think is going to be most important for Arizona State this Saturday going up against the Cowboys. Will in the chat, offensive line and linebackers. Personally, I'm going to say it's the quarterback, obviously. I think the quarterback for either one of these teams, whether we're talking about Sam Leavitt or getting into the discussion about Alan Bowman, I think whichever quarterback plays better, to be honest with you, is going to win this game. Now, I know that you could maybe say that is how every game goes. I don't think that's how every game is won or lost, but I think specifically in this matchup with Sam Leavitt's return, the way Alan Bowman has been hot or cold all year long, I think it will come down to that quarterback matchup. Short Bus in the chat saying it is the D-line. I can definitely see that. CJ Fight, Justin Watley, Prince Dorbah, Clayton Smith, Jeff Clark. A lot of these guys along that Arizona State defensive line, they are going to have their opportunities this Saturday against an Oklahoma State offensive line that has been pretty poor all season long. It is one of the most veteran, it is one of the oldest offensive line units in the nation. But just because you're old and experienced doesn't mean you are good. And that's been the case for Oklahoma State. I think there have been a lot of people that when talking about the Cowboys and seeing the way that their season has gone, they immediately point the finger at Ollie Gordon and Alan Bowman. Well, Ollie Gordon hasn't been Ollie Gordon because of the offensive line and due to injuries. He's still the same running back, but when you're dealing with injuries and you don't have an offensive line that's able to create space for you, well, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's tough to put up the video game numbers that you put up the year before. And when it comes to Alan Bowman, people talk about the INTs that he has this season. I understand that. I totally get where you're coming from. But when you're under pressure, sometimes decisions have to be quick, right? And at the end of the day, if you're under pressure, you're under duress, you're moving when you're not a mobile quarterback, you tend to make the wrong decision from time to time. And that's been the case for Alan Bowman. But I'll tell you what, if the Arizona State defensive line doesn't find a way to create pressure, doesn't find a way to create chaos for the Oklahoma State offensive line and Alan Bowman, it could be a long day. Because Alan Bowman has shown times that he can be a very, very methodical and talented quarterback. Kenny said it on Monday, right? Alan Bowman's a quarterback who at one point had a game where he threw for over 400 yards. You don't just do that if you're a bum at quarterback. I don't care who you are. And not only is Alan Bowman not a bum, but he's got weapons on offense. Ollie Gordon, most notably. Obviously, in the backfield, what he does is remarkable. He can also be a weapon in the receiving game as well. He's one of the biggest running backs in the conference, right? Of course, people want to say he's one of the best. I agree. I think he's a top 5 running back in this conference. The numbers would say otherwise. If you watch Ollie Gordon play football, you should thank every single day that you are not a linebacker on the opposite side of Ollie Gordon, because this guy will make you miss, and he will level you the same way that Cam Scatterbu does at Arizona State. Ollie Gordon, which for me, I'm going to just call him Oliver Gordon. I feel like Oliver Gordon is a way better name. I feel like Ollie's short for Oliver, but I don't know. Ollie Gordon is priority number 1 for this Arizona State defense. Yes, part of that is the defensive line. Part of it is that linebacker core. Keyshawn Elliott, Cyrus Fiaseu, Jordan Clark, Caleb McCullough, Tate Romney. All of those guys, you need to know where Ollie Gordon is at all times. I understand that Oklahoma State offense, when it comes to running the football, hasn't been as effective as you thought it'd be. For me, if I'm Brian Ward, I don't care. I'm loading the box, and I am making Alan Bowman beat me on Saturday, because the last thing that you want if you're Arizona State is to play this back and forth of who's going to run it better. Because Ollie Gordon at home, when the weather is not supposed to be good, I feel like is going to be a matchup nightmare. That's not to say that the Arizona State defense can't hang. I just believe that Ollie Gordon is always a man on a mission, and you're telling me he's at home going up against an Arizona State defense that for the last couple of weeks hasn't necessarily been the greatest when it comes to stopping the run. You look at what Corey Kiner did at Cincinnati versus Arizona State. Didn't favor the Sun Devils. You look at what Taj Brooks did earlier in the year against Arizona State. That wasn't good. Like, you look at Mahdi, the running back at Texas State. What he did at home wasn't really good. You got to find a way to stop a dominant running back at home, right? And home, I mean the other team. So Oklahoma State's home. For Cincinnati and Tech, they won those ball games against your Sun Devils. Why? Because they were able to run the football. If I'm Brian Ward, you have to make sure that they don't do it this time. You have to make sure Ollie Gordon is not the reason that you go down in a blink of an eye 14-0. Because if you do, Mike Gundy is totally fine with just turning and handing it to Ollie Gordon for the remainder of the game. Again, in a game where rain is expected. He's not the only weapon, though. Alan Bowman has a guy by the name of Brennan Presley, who you'll see in the latest edition of PHNX Plays later on in the week, is a force to be reckoned with. Brennan Presley has been at Oklahoma State the last couple of seasons. I know him most for what he did 2 years ago to Arizona State, the first time the Sun Devils were in Stillwater. It wasn't pretty. Brennan Presley, like Mike Gundy said on Monday in his press conference, should be an All-American wide receiver. I genuinely believe he is one of the most, if not the most, underrated wide receiver in the conference. He is quick. He is shifty. They love to move him pre-snap, and he can make you miss. He can make you miss, and he can outrun you. He's small. He's tough to tackle. He is a perfect slot wide receiver. Perfect. Arizona State doesn't necessarily have the greatest man coverage, corners, nickels, linebackers. And again, that's not a knock on those guys. That's more so saying Brennan Presley is just that guy. And he hasn't even been the leading wide receiver for Oklahoma State in 2024. Hasn't even been the leading wide receiver. Dejon Stribling. He's the leading wide receiver for those Oklahoma State Cowboys. And he presents a separate issue to Arizona State secondary. And Javen Robinson, who's expected to be back. That's obviously huge for Arizona State. And then, of course, Keith Abney. They've played solid to this point in the season. Presley and Stribling will probably be Arizona State's toughest matchup that they've seen since Kansas. I thought Kansas was a solid matchup. This is going to be a tough one because you got Presley, who's a speedster, you got Gordon in the backfield, and then you got Stribling. Stribling's their big body possession wide receiver. 6'2", can go over the top. He'll run you over, and he finds ways to come down with the football. I'm interested to see the matchup. Arizona State doesn't necessarily play the most man coverage in the world because they don't send a lot of pressure. So I anticipate Oklahoma State doing their absolute best to find the matchup in the zone. Where and what side of the field are you going to try and own? Because that's what it's going to be. They're going to own a side of the field. There's going to be a corner that they like the matchup, the same way you saw against Cincinnati. When Javen went out, LaTerrence Welch came in. What happened? Cincinnati picked him apart. They saw LaTerrence Welch, and they were licking their lips. Welch hasn't seen a lot of game action. Cincinnati took advantage of that. You best believe Mike Gundy, Alan Bowman, those guys are going to know which matchup they like, and you got to shut that down early. However, when you do what I suggested earlier in the show and load the box and try and stop an Ollie Gordon, you got less men in coverage. So you got to pick your poison with this team. And you got to capitalize on turnovers. That's how you win this game, right? I said on yesterday's show, when it comes to the Arizona State offense, what do? Honestly, I think this is going to be a quick game. Assuming it doesn't get delayed by rain and thunder, knock on wood. These are two teams that are comfortable running the football. Bad weather. You're not going to necessarily want to throw it if you're Arizona State. You're going to want to take the wind out of the Oklahoma State crowd sails. You can do that by running the rock with Cam Scatterbu, Kyson Brown, the Carlos Brooks. Ollie Gordon, he's going to run the football too. I think this is going to be a game where you've got two teams that all they want to do is run the football. And if that happens, we'll see who comes out on top. Arizona State dominates when it comes to time of possession. But you got to capitalize on turnovers. And that's been a lot of the judgment of Alan Bowman for Oklahoma State, is he turns the football over. So if you're able to get an INT, a sack fumble, take advantage of that extra possession. Find a way to get 6, not 3. Yes, the kicking concerns are there. That's fine. I'm not necessarily overly worried about the kicking concerns. You know why? Because you don't got to worry about kicking a field goal if you punch it in the end zone. So if you're able to get the extra possession or 2, take advantage of it. Not just with 6 points, but on the clock as well. You saw it against Tech. You saw it against Cincinnati for Arizona State. What's the game plan? We're going to smack you in the mouth, and we're going to run the football. But when a team finds a way to smack Arizona State in the mouth early, and you blink and you're down 10 points, 14 points, 17 points, it makes it really hard to run the football. And Arizona State hasn't proven yet that they can respond on the road in the Big 12. They did it against Texas State. That's fine. You got to do it on the road against a Big 12 team. Otherwise, people feel like they have that recipe. The recipe to beating Arizona State is all you got to do is play harder for 7 minutes to start the game. They'll shoot themselves in the foot, and boom, they have to abandon the game plan. That can't happen. You can't afford to have that happen. You can't afford to have that happen, especially because you're coming off a bye week and your starting quarterback is coming back. You got to go into Stillwater, establish the run, and take away Ollie Gordon. You do that, Alan Bowman has to beat you. Alan Bowman has to beat you. You send some pressure. You don't let him get clean looks for Stribling and Presley, and you get out of Stillwater as quick as you can because that place stinks. That's the recipe to success. I'm telling you, that's how Arizona State can get it done. Look, we're going to continue talking about this matchup. Make sure you drop any questions you have about Arizona State, about the matchup, about anything in the Big 12. Happy to answer them, but I'm going to do it on the other side of this break. Now, of course, we are going to have a post-game show like we always do when Arizona State takes on Oklahoma State. Immediately following that game, we will be live, and you best believe we are going to have some neutrals, guys. Keep it tasty, Tempe. If you are a seltzer lover this message is for you. The neutral vodka seltzer has arrived. It's made with simple ingredients, as simple as vodka, seltzer, and real juice. It doesn't get any simpler than that, guys. It tastes good. And when I say good, I mean it doesn't taste like a traditional seltzer. Yes, you get the bubbles, but you don't get the obnoxious, just seltzery flavor to what all of the other seltzers are. Neutral really does find the perfect balance between juice and a seltzer. Guys, Neutral, keep it tasty. Enjoy responsibly. 2024 Anheuser-Busch Neutral, flavored vodka and carbonation, St. Louis, Missouri. Now look, I'm also a big fan of saving money, and Circle K is the partner that helps me save money every single day of the week. So how do they do it? Well, they do it with Inner Circle. It's a free membership program that you guys can sign up for. Super, super easy to download. You could do it here in the next 30 seconds. Enter your email and phone number to be fully enrolled. And then after that, all you need is your phone number to get deals. They're not going to be sending you a bunch of obnoxious notifications. You literally sign up, pull up to the pump, type in your phone number, boom, you're getting 25 cents per gallon off on your first 5 fill-ups. And then every day after that, you're saving 3 cents per gallon as well. Enjoy your member-exclusive beverage deal. Inner Circle members like you can get any size Polar Pop or Froster for just 79 cents. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Will in the chat, they need to play more man coverage against this team. They've been torched when playing zone. Clamp Presley with Alford over the top and play cover one everywhere else. I don't know if Alford's fast enough. I don't know if Alford's fast enough to realistically play man coverage against Brennan Presley. I'm here for a little bit of bump and run. I don't know, though, if man coverage is the way that you beat this team. I think the way you beat this team, again, in my estimation, is you got to get Alan Bowman moving. He's not the most mobile quarterback in the world, so if you're able to get him scrambling and running, he is prone to making mistakes. He's prone to throwing to the other team when he's under pressure. So I think that is how you can get it done. I also, if Arizona State jumps to a lead and is able to run the rock, I don't see Alan Bowman really clawing this Oklahoma State team back in the game. I think, honestly, whichever team gets to 14 first is probably going to win this game. And Oklahoma State's defense, like we talked about yesterday, gives up a ton of points. The last 5 games, 38, 38, 38, 22, like everybody gets points. The opposing offense is literally a recipient on the Oprah show. Like, that's how it goes. Everybody wins when you're playing Oklahoma State's defense. The issue is, offensively, like you saw against BYU, is Oklahoma State, when they turn it up and they're figuring it out offensively, they're a tough team to stop for any defense. They gave BYU a run for their money, something that I feel like a lot of people are forgetting just because Oklahoma State lost to Baylor last weekend. BYU is lucky they won that game. Oklahoma State's defense gave away that game. Oklahoma State's offense, on the other hand, they found a way to keep it close with a top 15 team nationally and arguably the best team in the Big 12. Like, that's something that you have to consider when you're talking about this team. But to get more specifically into where Oklahoma State's offense ranks and where this Arizona State defense ranks in the conference, look, we talked yesterday about this Oklahoma State defense being literally the worst in the conference when it comes to certain things. Offensively, it's not really too much of, it's not too different. Oklahoma State, in terms of total yards, averaging 399.4. That is good for 13th out of 16. Now, Arizona State is 12th offensively. When it comes to pass yards per game, Oklahoma State, they're third. Pretty good. Alan Bowman, for everybody that hates Alan Bowman, has been able to sling it. They're averaging 288 yards offensively passing per game. So why total yards? Why are they so bad? Well, it's because they are 14th in the Big 12 when it comes to running the football. Yes, even with Ollie Gordon, Oklahoma State is just averaging 111.3 rush yards per game. The offensive line has been bad, and Oklahoma State has been trailing a lot in some of these games. So that's why the pass numbers feel pretty inflated. When you look at points per game, this is an Oklahoma State team that is about middle of the pack when it comes to scoring points, averaging about 30.5 per game. Arizona State, for context, averages 29.6 points per game. So offensively for Oklahoma State, they're fine. This is not something like where you're going against Kansas and you're like, they run the football really well. This is not like you're going up against Texas Tech saying, oh my goodness, they throw the football really well. This is a team that they want to run the football. That's the identity of Oklahoma State. That's been the identity of the Oklahoma State Cowboys for the last 15 years. They run the football with a big running back and they run it down your throats. They can't run the football this season. So when they're trailing by 2 scores in every ball game they've played so far, their quarterback is, of course, gonna be throwing it. Of course, the passing numbers are going to be inflated. Alan Bowman, he's not a Shadur Sanders. He's not a Rocco Becht. He's not that guy. So don't make him look like that guy. He's going to have decent numbers because Arizona State should win this game. Arizona State should be leading for the majority of this game. And look, we talked a lot about that Oklahoma State offense. Arizona State defensively is still one of the better units in this conference. Right now, they are 4th in total yards per game allowed in the Big 12, 328.7. Oklahoma State, like we discussed yesterday, is giving up the most total yards, literally 499.9 yards per game is what Oklahoma State is giving up defensively. Arizona State's defense is far better. Now, when it comes to slowing down opposing passing games and quarterbacks, Arizona State, again, slightly better than average in this conference, giving up just 212.9 per game. Like we said yesterday, Oklahoma State ranks 14th, giving up about 248 in the conference. Again, for context there. And then when it comes to stopping the run, there's only one team better in the Big 12 than Arizona State. That is Kansas State. Right now, Arizona State giving up just a $115.9 on the ground to opposing running backs. Again, I get the numbers are Arizona State stops the run and Oklahoma State is bad at running the ball. I don't care what the numbers say. If you watch Ollie Gordon play football, he could take it to the end zone any given play. I'm not messing around with Ollie Gordon, not doing it off a bye week for Arizona State. I'm not doing it with a Mike Gundy coach team for a homecoming game in some weird wacko uniforms. I'm not taking that chance. And when it comes to points per game, Arizona State, about middle of the pack, giving up about 23.1 points per game. Again, Oklahoma State, one of the worst teams in this conference defensively, gives up about 29.9. The only team that's given up more points defensively is, of course, Texas Tech, giving up about 36 points per game, which at this point in the season is absolutely crazy to be giving up about 36 points per game. Will in the chat, again, talking about Xavier Alford, saying, Alford gives you the height. Abney will keep up with the speed, but you need that safety net over the top. That's why Alford should clamp Presley. You have the personnel to play man everywhere else. So, Will, I'm curious. Do you have Alford playing man against Presley in the slot or outside? Do you have him following him all over the field? Do you have, in turn, Javen Robinson or Keith Abney? Which one do you have manned up against Stribling? Because I feel like in that case, again, Stribling is the bigger wide receiver here. Either Robinson or Abney is undersized to realistically be running man coverage against him. I just don't know if the matchup in the secondary really fits what Oklahoma State does offensively. I just feel like you're probably better sitting in his zone and trying to get pressure. But that's just me. I'm curious. Again, I think Alford does give you better size. But at the end of the day, I'm not taking any corner probably in the Big 12 playing bump and run with Brennan Presley. He's just too quick off the line. He's got barn burner speed. He can run any route in the route tree. He's that good. So unless you have a superb man corner, it's tough to run man against a guy like that who can play on the perimeter. He can play in the slot. And then if he's playing in the slot, where do you have Shamari? Do you have Shamari back up and go play safety again, even though that he's been playing in that nickel spot? Like, it's tough. It's a tough decision, but I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Will also saying in the chat, you can get away with some cover 2, cover 3, but it should be few and far between. Sharon in the chat, I want a sack this weekend. Sharon, you are not alone. Prince Dorbah, I'm calling your name from atop the pirate ship. Where are you? Clayton Smith has been here. CJ Fight's been here. Justin Watley's been here. Prince Dorbah needs a game. Needs to put the Big 12 on notice. I said that Prince Dorbah was the best pass rusher on this team. He got hurt, Camp Tontazona, didn't play for a couple weeks to start the year. He's come back, left a little bit to be desired. I still believe in him. He's an absolute animal coming off the edge at times. He's got the size. He's got the speed. I believe he's got the technique. And now he's got the matchup. Going up against an Oklahoma State offensive line that, my goodness, they're so old, they need to probably be put in some homes, to be honest with you. When we're talking about eligibility, these guys have used it all up. It's just the truth. And if you want this defense to feast, can't just be one edge rusher. Can't just be Clayton Smith dominating. These quarterbacks need to feel claustrophobic. The walls are caving in. Well, guess what? You're not claustrophobic when just one wall is caving in. Not just Clayton Smith off the right side or the left. You need Dorbah. You need him. And why do you need him? Well, because you can't afford to genuinely send extra guys, right? I say you want to create pressure and chaos and really get Alan Bowman moving. Well, the best way to do it is getting pressure and doing it with your 4 guys up front. CJ Fight's been able to get pressure this year. Justin Wiley's been able to get pressure this year. Clayton Smith has been able to get pressure this year. Arizona State's not a giant blitzing team. Yes, they do have some fun third down packages that they run with blitzes. That's all good and well. The perfect defense doesn't have to blitz, though. They get pressure with their 4. And right now, you got 3 of 4 guys on that defensive line that are getting pressure. Prince Dorbah can do it. Just a matter of when. The answer to that question is now. Now. You've had a week. You've had a week off. You're fresh. You're coming off a loss against Cincinnati. You got the matchup now. In the rain. On the road. What else could you ask for? Right? If you're an edge rusher, what more could you ask for? You know how hard it is for some of these 300-pound, 6'10" offensive linemen to get out of their stance on a normal day? Now you're telling me I have got an Oklahoma State offensive lineman going into year 27 with double knee braces in the rain trying to get off. If I'm Prince Dorbah, I am absolutely making them look silly. You got the advantage this week. So I don't think Alan Bowman and Oklahoma State are going to want to come out throwing it immediately. I could be wrong. I just don't think that fits what they want to do to win this game off rip. Maybe they get to that point. But if you're able to win first and second down and put Alan Bowman and Oklahoma State's offense in uncomfortable down and distances, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 11, even 3rd and 7, obvious passing downs, go pin your ears back, man. Again, Alan Bowman is not a mobile quarterback. Even mobile quarterbacks have a tough time in the rain. So Clayton Smith, CJ Fight, all these guys should eat this weekend. Prince Dorbah needs to eat this weekend. If he doesn't, could hurt this defense. Could hurt a team in Arizona State that desperately needs this win. Keyshawn Elliott, Cyrus Fiaseu, obviously they're going to have their moments. Guess who's responsible for stopping Ollie Gordon? It's your 2 transfer linebackers. Brennan Presley coming over the middle. Need to introduce you to Cyrus Fiaseu. You can't afford to have those guys just do what they do. Run mesh concepts with a guy like Brennan Presley because he's a cheat code in NCAA. All those scat slot wide receivers are because they're quick. You get them running. You can't run in man coverage. And mesh is designed to almost be a pick play. You gotta show them what Arizona State's defense is all about. It's Keyshawn Elliott, Cyrus Fiaseu. We talked about the first level, the second level, a little bit about that third level in the secondary. Obviously, Keith Abney, Javen Robinson returning, LaTerrence Welch when he gets in there. These corners are going to have their hands full. Shamari Simmons. But a lot of it's going to be up to the safeties too. Xavier Alford, Kamari Wilson when he plays, Miles Rouser. These safeties, in terms of being able to help in the run game while also not giving up anything in the pass, is going to be massive if Arizona State wants to win this game. And I know I say, oh, this is massive, this is massive, this is massive. Again, Oklahoma State is better than their record. The same way Kansas was better than their record. You can't go into Stillwater and expect to be playing a team that has lost 5 in a row. Because it's not a team that deserves to lose 5 in a row. They have their mistakes. A lot of those mistakes come on defense. Their offense knows what they're doing. Alan Bowman has played a lot of football. Ollie Gordon has played a lot of football. Brennan Presley has played a lot of football. You know, the scariest part is they've played a lot of football together. And they're doing it at home. Defense needs to find a way to figure it out. Will in the chat, it sounds similar to a cover 2, but with one safety always honed on one guy. Cover 6 would also be a good option against their passing scheme containing those two. I like Abney and Simmons on Presley inside. I'm a fan of cover 6, especially in a game like this. But that's just me. I'm not Brian Ward. I'm not making the calls, but it is what it is. I also want to know, we're going to get into predictions and all that fun stuff on Friday, who we think actually wins this game. But I want to hear from you guys right now. I want to hear who you guys think should be on Heat Index on Friday. Who's an individual Arizona State player that needs to step up? And who do you think comes out on top on Saturday between Arizona State and Oklahoma State? Now, while you guys head to the comments and do that, also hit that like button, hit a subscribe button. Make sure you're subscribed to PHNX Sports here because we have so much content, not just Arizona State related, Arizona Wildcat related. We got Suns content. We got Cardinals content. We got Diamondbacks content. We got hockey content. We got so much content, YouTube doesn't even know what to do with it. So make sure you are subscribed to PHNX Sports. And if you're listening on audio, I really, really do appreciate you guys. Make sure you drop a 5-star review. Will in the chat, where's the big announcement, by the way? I told you it's Friday. I'm sticking to it. Unless you're a PHNX diehard. If you're a PHNX diehard, you are going to know about that good, big news before Friday's show. I can promise you that it's fun. It's going to be fun for everybody, especially with this weekend, especially with basketball getting started. You're definitely not going to want to miss it again. That's Friday at 1:30 on the show, unless you're a diehard. So maybe you're wondering how you become a PHNX diehard. Well, it's super, super easy. All you got to do is go to gophnx.com today. And we got still a ridiculous offer for you. $48. $48. One price. Just for the whole year. You could be a diehard for the whole year for $48. Not to mention, you are getting a free shirt or hat. You could take off, what's a shirt? $30. You remove that price from the diehard membership, you're paying like $18 for a year's worth of exclusive diehard content, premium content. From guys like Gerald Bourguet, Craig Morgan, Jesse Friedman, everybody here at the PHNX family. You're getting access to that diehard Discord where I know Short Bus, Sharon, Donna, we got a ton of people actually now. We even got an Iowa State fan in there who's chiming in from time to time, talking Arizona State, talking Big 12. Not to mention you're getting discounts on events, on merch, and so much more. Again, come join that PHNX family. Do it by becoming a diehard. Again, go phnx.com/diehard. diehard. Will in the chat, I must have misheard you yesterday. Thought you guys said it was going to be announced today and actually happened on Friday. Announcement coming on Friday. Again, my hands are tied. My hands are tied. If I could tell you, I would tell you because I love all of you. But it goes above my head. It goes above my head. It's good. Captain Redbeard, you can attest. It is a good announcement that we got on Friday.
4,000 out of 10.
4,000 out of 10. That's not me. That's our captain. That's the captain speaking. Come on, guys. We need you there. It's going to be an absolute blast. Look, we talked a lot about this matchup between Arizona State and Oklahoma State. We're going to continue doing it on Friday. But earlier in the show, we said that this was a must-win for Arizona State if you wanted to reach the lofty goal of potentially being in the Big 12 championship game. Now, Arizona State, they are going to have to scratch and claw because those 2 losses do hurt. You can't really afford to have any more losses when it comes to actually getting into that game. So let's take a look at some of the other matchups going on in the Big 12 this weekend. And if you're an Arizona State fan, who you should be rooting for. Okay, so we're going to kick things off with Texas Tech at Iowa State. Iowa State, we know that this has been a really, really solid team all year long. I know there's people complaining that Iowa State in the grand scheme of the Big 12 hasn't necessarily played anybody. I disagree. I think Iowa State is still a really, really good football team, but that is just me. Tech, on the other hand, they're coming off an interesting game, I believe, against TCU, where they lost that game on the road. They need a rebound. They absolutely need a rebound. And if you're Arizona State at this point, Texas Tech is 3-2 in the Big 12. Iowa State is 4-0. Obviously, the overall record doesn't necessarily matter when we are talking about the Big 12 title game and the conference title game. Conference record, obviously, always comes first. So again, Arizona State, as it stands in conference play, is 2-2. At this point, I feel like you'd rather have Tech lose this game. You'd rather have Tech lose this game because you lost the head-to-head to them. They will always have that advantage over you. I would say Iowa State at home, you're rooting for the Cyclones to take down Texas Tech. That way, you are even keel with Texas Tech. They don't have that extra game plus the tiebreaker because they beat you head up. Next game, another interesting one. Kansas State, number 17 team in the nation, going up against Houston. Houston, fresh off a win against Utah, which poor Utah at this point in the season. Kansas State is 4-1 in the Big 12. Houston is 2-3. At this point in the year, Kansas State is obviously going to be the favorite. Avery Johnson, 1,654 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, and 5 INTs so far this season. He has been on an absolute tear for the Wildcats. You want Kansas State to lose this one. I know it sounds weird, but Houston would then at that point go to 3-3. You would continue to have a lot of these Big 12 teams closer and closer. And Kansas State at this point would move to, if they lost to Houston, which I don't think it'll happen, but if they do, they go to 4-2 in the Big 12. Again, much closer to Arizona State. If Houston wins this game, it brings them closer up, but it also brings Kansas State closer down to Arizona State's level. So if you're an Arizona State fan, you are hoping, you are praying for Houston to somehow knock off number 17 Kansas State. Not likely, but a man can dream. Next up, the Arizona Wildcats going up against UCF. My goodness, 2 teams that have absolutely been a clown show all season long. UCF, what happened? What happened? I thought you guys were going to be good, man. You made me look stupid. RJ Harvey's a dog, though. Over 1,000 rushing yards and 13 tutties. Arizona, you're making me look smart because I told everyone you were going to suck anyways, and that's what you guys are. You're 3-5 overall, same as UCF, 1-4 in the Big 12. It doesn't matter who wins this game, to be honest with you. Neither one of these teams is sniffing the title game. Neither one of these teams, in reality, is going to do a whole lot the rest of the year. This game matters for both of these teams in terms of trying to get to bowl eligibility. If you're an Arizona State fan, this conference matchup doesn't really matter to you, but you're always rooting against Arizona because, hey, it's the Arizona Wildcats. I don't care what Mike Luke says. You're rooting against the Wildcats. So as it stands right now, you're rooting for Iowa State to lose, or Iowa State to beat Texas Tech. You're rooting for Houston to beat Kansas State, and you're rooting for UCF to beat Arizona. Obviously, Arizona State takes on UCF next week at home. Definitely going to want to be at that game. Of course, you've got the Arizona State game. You're rooting for the Sun Devils. A loss in this game would pretty much totally eliminate Arizona State from any hope of being in the Big 12 title game, based off the fact that several of the other teams you will still have to play. And if they win, you'll have to go out there and probably beat BYU, Kansas State, Arizona. Like, you just probably won't have enough time in the season to do it. And then the final game in conference play that we are going to talk about is TCU and Baylor. This is a game that if you showed me 5 weeks ago, I would have said this is a stink fest. This is a gross game. I don't want anything to do with it. But based off the fact that now TCU is 5-3 and Baylor is 4-4, these two teams have found a way to get hot as of late. Again, Baylor just beat Oklahoma State. TCU just beat Texas Tech. 3-2 in Big 12 play for TCU, 2-3 in Big 12 play for Baylor. At this point in the season, again, you want these teams to be closer rather than further away. So yes, if Baylor wins, they will technically be as close as you are. By you, I mean Arizona State, getting to a Big 12 title game, but that also keeps TCU in the same area as you, as opposed to them moving to 4-2 in conference play. You would actually be above them because if they lose this game, they are 3-3. And then at that point, you are 3-2 in conference play. So just to recap, if you're an Arizona State fan, you are rooting for Baylor over TCU. You are rooting for UCF over Arizona. You are rooting for Houston over Kansas State, and you are rooting for Iowa State over Texas Tech. Captain Redbeard, did you get all that?
I did.
You know who you're rooting for.
Yes, I got my rooting guide.
That's all I need to know. Well, in the chat, hot take, I'd rather have K-State win. It doesn't affect ASU's chances. Well, maybe not yet. It might not affect ASU's chances yet, but you best believe it'll affect ASU's chances when these two teams play each other. Again, you'd rather be closer than further away. Now, Iowa State is in a little bit of a different situation because they are undefeated to this point in the year, and you don't play them. So there's not necessarily an opportunity to get that tiebreaker. BYU doesn't play this week, but BYU would be another unique situation. They are completely undefeated to this point in the season, I believe, right? BYU's undefeated, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But you do ultimately see BYU a little bit later on in the season. So you definitely want to make sure that you are as close to them as humanly possible by the time that you actually get into those games. I have not seen a single score prediction for Arizona State versus Oklahoma State. Obviously, me and Eric will give you our score predictions on Friday. We're going to go through Heat Index and do all of that fun stuff, but that is on Friday. Couple other side notes. Like I said, be here Friday for the show. Big announcement. Unless you're Sharon or any of the other diehards, you're getting that announcement in the diehard Discord much earlier. Also, go PHNX/newsletter. Okay? Pat Brown does some absolutely phenomenal work. You're getting that newsletter for free in your inbox with all sorts of good stuff. Definitely make sure you sign up for that. That is, again, go phnx.com/newsletter. Also, give our friend Patrick Brown a follow over on social as well. Guys, that is going to do it for today's episode of the PHNX Sun Devils show. I appreciate everybody that watched live. I appreciate everybody that listened on audio. I appreciate everybody that is stopping by after the fact. If you enjoyed the content, give us a follow at PHNX_Sun Devils. You can follow me at Anthony_Totri. You can follow my co-host who is running from the grind as always. That is Eric Ruby. Eric with a K. You can follow the captain of this whole ship, Captain Redbeard, at KCoop Sports. Again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. We love you. We appreciate you. And as always, go Devils and peace.
We all silly like the mayor.